So for the last part of this lecture in genetic disorders, we'll be discussing a little bit about molecular genetic diagnosis. So let's go for a brief introduction for this. The methods for molecular genetic diagnosis emerged in the latter half of the 20th century. It began with Sanger sequencing in 1997. Then eventually, PCR method was developed in 1983, and the next generation sequencing, which is an advanced form of PCR, was started to be implemented in the 1990s. So right now, nucleic acid-based testing is taking a central role in the diagnosis and management of many diseases. Hindi lang masyado obvious ito sa Pilipinas kasi these the methods are expensive relatively compared to your other tests. Tapos not only a few institutions will carry these kinds of tests. So at the moment, only the big hospitals like St. Luke's, Medical City, NKTI, Makati Med are the ones that are offering these kinds of testing kasi they have the capability to do so. The tests are being currently also the tests are being supplanted by comprehensive next generation sequencing based approaches. Right now dito sa Pilipinas, ang alam ko lang na merong next generation sequencing is in UP Diliman, care of the Philippine Genome Center. So sila ang kapag meron kang gustong ipa-sequence talaga, dun mo ipadadala. Pero in other countries, these tests are more widely available. At least the big university hospitals have these kinds of techniques. So pag meron usually for research, yung maaasahan mo that the university hospitals will have a wide array of molecular genetic diagnostic testing. What are your considerations? Your genetic markers may be somatic or constitutional, and nucleic acid specific to an infectious agent may be confined to particular cells or body sites. So right now, in this these days na meron tayong pandemic, naging mas malaki ang role ngayon ng molecular genetic diagnosis because of its role in the quick diagnosis of your infectious agents. So, for the lab, ano ang considerations natin for the laboratory? Choosing a test depends on the sensitivity, specificity, accuracy, and reproducibility. Hindi porket na meron kang available na test, kukunin mo na siya agad. No. You need to read the fine print. Ano ang kayang gawin ng test? Ano ang pwede mong i-offer na dun sa platform na yan. Kasi what you're buying is not necessarily just test kits. You're buying platforms. So, for example, fluorescence for fish. Ano bang kaya niyang gawin? So, kailangan alam mo kung ano kaya niyang gawin para alam mo kung ano i-offer mo dun sa patients mo. Hindi siya one size fits all. So, you need to choose the proper platform in order to get the proper kits. What are the practical factors? Cost, labor, reliability, turnaround time. Cost, dito sa Pilipinas, expect mo na mahal yan unless covered ng insurance. Labor, sino magpa-perform ng actual procedure? Sino mag-oversee? So, kung sino gagawa, that's usually your medical technologist. Sino magsusupervise? Pwedeng molecular biologist, pwedeng pathologist. Reliability. How, ibig sabihin nito yung, dito papasok yung positive predictive value, negative predictive value. Does the test result show you what you, does the test result really tell you the accurate picture of your patient? And last would be turnaround time. So as I've mentioned, as your lectures in clinical pathology will tell you, turnaround time is a time when you submit a specimen up to you receive a final report. How long does it take? Hindi to na parang hihintayin mo ng isang araw. You need to really wait for days, probably even weeks. Depende on the volume, of course, and the complexity of your test. Choosing appropriate diagnostic technique depends on the knowledge of genetic anomalies. That's why your supervisor should be very well versed in either molecular pathology or molecular biology. So sila ang usually na kinukuha na mag-ahead kasi sila ang marunong dapat sa interpretation ng test at saka sa pag-manage ng mga equipment. The anomalies range in size of single base substitutions to gains or losses of entire chromosomes. And anomaly frequency is based on ethnicity as well. So, hindi lang enough na alam mo kung paano pagganahin ng test. Kailangan alam mo din kung yung nararapat ba yung test dun sa pasyente mo. Diyan sila pumapasok, yung clinical eye ng mga supervisors mo. Usually, if your result comes up negative, but you have a high clinical suspicion, further testing is indicated. Probably you have chosen a poor platform or pwedeng sampling error ang issue mo. So, pwede kang magpa-repeat testing or you use a more comprehensive method, a more definitive method for your diagnosis. Even, as Robbins mentioned, even your next generation sequencing can miss certain lesions, such as those na deletions that are kilobase in size, and for gene rearrangements, hindi siya proper test to choose. So you may need to use other methods. What are your indications for analysis for inherited genetic alterations? For me, itong part na to, itong indications for inherited and acquired genetic alterations, mas importante to. You know when to refer to a molecular pathologist or a geneticist or to a molecular biologist for further testing. So first, prenatal testing for all fetuses are at risk for cytogenetic abnormalities. If your patients have advanced maternal age, they are known to carry a balanced chromosomal rearrangement. Meron kang fetal anomalies observed on ultrasound, routine maternal blood screening indicating an increased risk of Down syndrome or another trisomy. So, ano ang specimens isasabit mo? Pwedeng amniocentesis, chorionic villus biopsy, or even umbilical cord blood can be submitted for analysis. For newborns or children, you do analysis if there are multiple congenital anomalies, suspicion of metabolic syndrome, yung mga inborn errors of metabolism, unexplained mental retardation and or developmental anomalies. As I've mentioned earlier, yung mga trisomies mo, usually they have mental retardation as one symptom. Tapos doon on your lysosomal storage diseases, mapapansin nyo, consistent sa kanila, mental retardation. If you suspect aneuploidy or other syndromic chromosomal abnormality, and you suspect monogenic disease, you request for analysis. What about for older patients? If they have inherited cancer syndromes, for example, patients with multiple cancers, you suspect them to have siguro cancer syndrome such as Li-Fraumeni syndrome, and that's because there is a mutation in your P53. So, kailangan mag-detect yung P53 mutation na yun. Next is atypically mild monogenic disease, and especially neurodegenerative disorders. Again, dito pumapasok sina Huntington, sina Fragile X. Because, remember, these patients, nung pinanganak sila, wala silang symptoms, pero naman nagde-develop sila in adulthood. Yung mga around 40 years above. Kaya, doon kayo medyo magsasuspect na kailangan mo magpa-further examination. How about for acquired genetic alterations? Dito madalas cancer at infectious disease. Okay? So, in the field of oncology right now, which is I am very active on, you detect tumor-specific acquired mutations and cytogenetic alterations that are hallmarks for specific tumors. These days, hindi na enough na alam na we can identify the tumor using only histology or immunohistochemical stains. The diagnosis sometimes requires detection of mutation. Determination of clonality as an indicator of a neoplastic condition. Identification of specific genetic alterations that can direct therapeutic choices. So, ang tanong dito is, are the genetic alterations actionable or non-actionable? Right now, we are discovering the benefits of using monoclonal antibodies, and they are based on the mutations present sa tumor ng patient mo. Determination of treatment efficacy and detection of drug-resistant secondary mutations in malignancies treated with genetically tailored therapeutics. Yung actionable and actionable na sinasabi ko, mas nag-a-apply dito sa last. Kasi if based on the guidelines, yung primary treatment does not work, you may need to do further testing. Usually, these involve the use of arrays already, which means they are trying to detect multiple different mutations para malaman kung anong pwedeng gamitan ng special drugs. Usually, these are in the setting of your clinical trials. Next is diagnosis and management of infectious disease, which you all should be very, very familiar now with the advent of PCR testing for your COVID-19. So, right now, ang uso na ngayon ang detection of microorganism-specific genetic material for definitive diagnosis, identification of specific genetic alterations in the genomes of microbes, especially when you're trying to find out if there are nagmutate ba yung mga viruses mo, just like what you're experiencing right now. And determination of treatment efficacy, so you can determine kung meron bang drug resistance. The best example that I can give you for this is, aside from COVID-19, it would be TB. Right now, in the Philippines, the diagnosis of TB via PCR methods is already a valid test to determine kung meron bang TB ang isang pasyente or wala. The platform is called GeneXpert, and FEU is trying to acquire one of those units right now. So we'll be eventually having our own molecular laboratory. So, for the purposes of this lecture, it will be very cumbersome if I try to explain all of the different methods. But unfortunately kasi, some of those methods are not being widely used here in the Philippines. So I'd rather dwell on those topics that you can appreciate. Ibig sabihin, nag-exist kasi dito yung technology. At malamang, when you become doctors yourselves, these tests are the ones that you are going to ask from the laboratory na ma-perform for your patient. The most common of these would be your polymerase chain reaction. So, your PCR analysis nyo, ang basic gist niyan is you're trying to synthesize short DNA fragments from a DNA template. So, and this is a mainstay of molecular diagnosis for the last few decades. Hanggang ngayon, ginagamit pa rin, although what we are using right now are the variations and advances in your PCR. The target DNA is usually less than 1,000 base pairs, and they lie between designated primer sites. And you're going to amplify that certain target for sequence analysis. So, the original method was Sanger sequencing, kaso very cumbersome method, hindi na to masyado ginagamit. To analyze this, you still need to do, aside from electrophoresis, nag-x-ray ka pa. Right now, hindi na ginagamit yun. Ang ginagamit na more modern method is the use of fluorochromes. So, after mo ma-amplify, nakadikit pa rin yung fluorochromes sa'yo at dinedetect siya ng machine para magbigay sa'yo masabi sa'yo if the mutation is present or not. Next generation sequencing, I will be discussing more of that later kasi ito na ang mas uso ngayon. Basic nito is that PCR primers are being performed simultaneously, and it's more sensitive than the Sanger method. You have also single base primer extensions, restriction fragment length analysis, amplicon length analysis, which is what you use for your trinucleotide repeat mutations. Pero pag hindi kaya ng method na to, you may need to do southern blot analysis. And then, real-time PCR, which is what I've explained earlier, yung gumagamit na ng fluorophore indicators to detect and quantify the presence of your particular nucleic acid sequences in real time. This is the one that we're using right now for COVID-19. So how about FISH? FISH uses DNA probes that recognize the sequences specific to a particular chromosomal region. In other words, you have probes na alam niya na ang target mo. Known na siya na target. So when you apply them to cells, pag nakita mo siyang umilaw under a fluoroscopic microscope, ibig sabihin na present yung target mo. Okay. So it involves you're detecting large fragments of cloned genomic DNA up to 200 kilobase pairs they are labeled with a fluorescent dye and applied to metaphase chromosome preparation or interphase nuclei. Then the fluorescent probes then hybridizes to a homologous chromosome region. Then you visualize it using a fluorescent microscope. I'll show you a sample of that later. What is its use? It's used to detect chromosomal abnormalities not demonstrable by karyotyping. Actually, this is a faster method than karyotyping. Kasi in karyotyping, ang kailangan mo pang gawin is, after mo makuha lahat ng base pairs, ima-match-match mo pa siya, tapos saka ka palang maghahanap using G-banding. Medyo cumbersome ang technique na yon. If you know what you are already looking for. If you already know what you're looking for, mag-fish na lang kayo. Mas madali kasi siya. Especially if available yung kit. Gene amplification, madali yan using FISH. In HER2, for the detection of HER2 in breast cancer, sobrang gamit na gamit ang method na to. So this one is actually found in the chapter of breast in Robin. So ito ang sample ng gene amplification detection using FISH. So, just to sum it up, in breast cancer kasi, ang isa sa mga hinahanap mo is amplification of your HER2 copies. So, ito yon. Okay? So, pag madami ito, ang maganda kasi, although worse ang prognosis for your patient, they can undergo specific treatment which is called trastuzumab. That is specific for HER2. So, what you're going to do dito in your negative, as you can see, normally, you should only have 2 copies of CEP17 and 2 copies of HER2. So, ayan, 1:1, no problem. And when you check for the HER2 protein via your immunohistochemical method, negative ka. This time, though, what if may multiple copies ka of your HER2? So, you should see them as multiple red dots under your fluoroscopic microscope. So, ito, binibilang namin yan in 40 cells. And may mga ratios kami, may algorithm kami basically on how to compute this. Pero if you're just looking at this one cell, madaling sabihin, meron kang amplification of your HER2. And when you corresponded to your protein, to the presence of your HER2 protein, ayan siya, nag-bay brown, so ibig sabihin, positive ito for your immunohistochemical stain. How about next generation sequencing? Ito medyo up-and-coming technology talaga. This is used to describe several newer DNA sequencing technologies that produce very large amounts of sequence data in a massively parallel manner. The rapid adoption of NGS is due to its ability to perform impossible analysis at an extremely low relative cost. Yes, low relative cost, but doesn't mean that it comes cheap. Medyo expensive pa rin. Alam kong running rates at Philippine Genome Center is around 30,000 pesos to 50,000 pesos for one single analysis. So, medyo expensive pa rin siya. It does not need a single homogeneous template DNA, unlike your Sanger sequence, and any DNA from any source can be used. Ang gusto namin sa NGS kasi is it does parallel amplification. So, mas mapapabilis yung analysis ninyo. And it can be at different sites. So, how does it do that? So, within your plate over here, you have your primer DNA na nakakabit na agad. Tapos, sabay-sabay silang ina-action na ng DNA polymerase mo. So, ito, instead of one sequence na pahahabain na i-clone mo, basically, gagawa ka ng copies, dito, pwedeng multiple na sabay-sabay. At meron na siyang nakakabit na fluorochromes. So, when you're trying to read this, when it comes to reading this via your machine methods, mas mabilis siya, mas mabilis kang makakuha ng results. Kasi, you have multiple template DNA already present. You have multiple copies of the DNA via your amplification ang binabasa at the same time. In the original Sanger sequencing, paisa-isa lang yan. So, there are other technologies described in Robbins: cytogenomic array technologies, detection of your genetic polymorphisms, epigenetic analysis, and RNA analysis. However, we're not going to delve in this anymore because these are up-and-coming technologies, not yet seen dito masyado sa Pilipinas. Only a very rare, parang iisa lang ata or dalawang institutions ang meron nito right now. So, while it's nice to read on this because by the time that your doctors probably will have more use for these new technologies as well. And that would be the end of my lecture. You can get a copy of the lecture slides in Moodle, and you can review this lecture as well in Moodle via the YouTube links available there. Thank you.